Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It Youth Series. Today is Diwali, and we wish everyone a very happy Diwali who has joined in. It's an Indian festival, and we hope that it's a festival of lights, and we hope that we, from Let Us Talk It team, is able to light someone's life somewhere through these webinars, through these engagements. It is for the community to make a community engaged, informed, and definitely little bit more involved as well. And we hope that all of you who have joined in on Zoom, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you will all be engaging here with the youth, because the youth have come up with a very unique topic about the universe, its myth, origins, and theories. So, just as we know, the universe is everything we can touch, feel, sense, measure, or detect. It includes living things, planets, stars, galaxies, dust clouds, light, and even time, and whatnot. So, this topic of today's topic is to just have a little bit of journey around those areas which we don't know much, and which our youth has got a lot of information about. They are very excited about, and they want to share with all of you out there. So for today's webinar, we have with us our panelist Mahati, who is 7th grader. We have Pranav, 10th grader, Hasni, 7th grader, Anvita, 5th grader, and we have for the first time Arijit, who is a 7th grader. And as always, we have our very calm and composed, and also the brainchild of this topic, Medha, who is an 11th grader. Over to you, Medha.
Thank you, Auntie. So I wanted to start by sharing a quote that we all found very applicable to this topic. Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the universe. So this was said by Albert Einstein. Throughout time, our technology has become so advanced and we've gained so much knowledge, but we still don't even know a small fraction, a billionth of what there is to know about our universe, which, to put it very bluntly, actually makes us quite stupid to believe that we know everything there is to know, but we really don't. So, all of the panelists today will in some way be speaking to this topic, and we'll be discussing all the myths, theories, origins, and generally scientifically revolutionary things that happen in our universe, which many of us may not know. And we hope that by the end of it, you may learn something you never knew before, or that in some way we can help ignite a spark of interest within you about the darkest, deepest corners of space and time. So, moving on to our table of contents for today, we'll start by defining the universe, which is almost impossible because it's quite literally the largest thing to ever exist and has so many definitions, but we've tried to sum it up. Then we'll be speaking about what really came before the Big Bang, followed by transitioning to dark matter and then concepts of parallel universes. Towards the end, we'll get into black holes, which, for those of you who may not be aware, are massive objects in space where they say gravity is so strong that no light or even time ceases to exist. Following that, we'll go over the most debated and thought about question, are we alone in space? And after, an important question we'll address is what happens if our planet, Earth, ceases to exist. And then finally, we'll be speaking about the fabric of space-time and how recent discoveries may change time as we know it. And as always, we'll end with the interactions and Q&A session, during which you can submit your questions in the chat, either on Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook, and we'll answer them. So with that, let's get started introducing ourselves.
Hey everyone, my name is Hassani and I'm a 7th grader at Ruther Middle School in Michigan. And some things I enjoy doing are playing tennis, doing kuchipudi dance, and hanging out with friends.
Hello everyone, my name is Ajit Naru and I'm a 7th grader at Camillus Middle School. A few things I like doing are playing soccer, playing the drums, creating props, and also singing.
Hi everyone, my name is Anvita. I am a fifth grader at Flores Elementary in Herndon, Virginia. A few of my hobbies are painting, playing Carnatic violin, and biking.
Hi everyone, my name is Pranav Arkatala and I'm a 10th grader at Lambert High School in Georgia. And some hobbies are singing and playing basketball.
Hey everybody, my name is Mahadi and I'm a 7th grader at Ruther Middle School in Michigan, and some things I like doing are painting, researching, and baking.
Hi everyone, I'm Maida again. I'm a junior in high school in Virginia, and some of my hobbies are singing, dancing, and I also really enjoy reading and spending time with my family. So now that you've gotten to know who we are, Hasini will begin by defining the universe as well as giving us a couple interesting facts about it.
Okay, so what is the universe? As Jewel and Auntie mentioned before, the universe is everything we could touch, feel, sense, measure, or detect. It includes living things, planets, stars, galaxies, dust clouds, light, and even time. But before the birth of the universe, time, space, and matter did not exist. The universe contains billions of galaxies, each containing millions or billions of stars. The universe is made up of two main elements, which are space and time. These two kinds of elements behave according to physical laws in which we describe how the elements interact. A galaxy is a huge collection of gas, dust, and billions of stars in their solar systems, all held together by gravity. Astronomers can use telescopes to look at very distant galaxies. This is how they see what the universe looked like a long time ago. We live on a planet called Earth that is a part of our solar system. But where is our solar system? It's a small part of the Milky Way galaxy. Some fun facts about the universe is that it was hot when it was young and it would be cold when it grows old. The Earth is not flat, but the universe is. The universe spans a diameter of over 150 billion light years. There is a supermassive black hole at the heart of every galaxy. And the universe has the same temperature everywhere. And we've only discovered 5% of the universe. The other 95% is invisible.
Thank you, Hasini. Those were, I didn't know a lot of them, especially the one where there's a supermassive black hole at the heart of every galaxy. I think that's kind of scary, but also really interesting. So thank you. So now Pranav will be speaking about different theories about what came before the Big Bang and explaining it in a bit more detail.
Okay, so before the Big Bang, a scientist by the name of Stephen Hawking said that events are unmeasurable and thus undefined, and he called this the no boundary proposal, saying that time and space are finite, but they don't have any boundaries or starting or ending points. The same way that the planet Earth is finite but has no edge. So before the Big Bang, the universe was just this one infinite stretch of an ultra hot, dense material persisting in a steady state until for some reason the Big Bang occurred. This extra dense universe may have been governed by quantum mechanics, the physics of the extremely small scale. No one is certain what happened before the Big Bang, but there's another theory that came after the Big Bang, which was called the inflation theory, which proposes a period of rapidly exponential expansion of the universe during its first few moments. So it's developed around the 1980s to explain several puzzles with the standard Big Bang theory, in which the universe expands gradually throughout its history. It was observed in the late 1980s by an astrophysicist named Alan Guth. The term inflation refers to the explosively rapid expansion of space-time that occurred a tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang. So as you can see in this picture, it explains just that. And Yeah. Next slide.
Thank you, Pranav, especially the part when you mentioned all the different theories that go into what came before the Big Bang. And even if we don't understand all those theories, I think it's really important that we know how many there actually are. Kind of opens us up to the fact that this is a very broad topic of discussion. So now we've all heard of the phrase dark matter and dark energy, but what does it really mean, physically and literally? To tell us that, we have AJ.
Dark matter. Dark matter is all the energy present in space. So, dark energy is made out of neon, which is the base material, and the exotic space particles present in space itself charges it. So, what are we doing to understand it? So, at Grand Sasso Laboratory, underground laboratory in Paris, scientists are watching or observing this tank filled with 3.5 metric tons of liquid neon. They are guessing that the exotic space particles will submerge into this specific amount of neon, and it will change it into so-called dark matter. They are planning to use this model to learn more about dark matter itself, because at this moment we don't know much about it. They don't have much results right now, but they are very looking forward to getting them. It all started when astronomers first observed that the galaxies held more mass than that is actually visible to or visible material. So stars, gas clouds, or planets in the Pacific galaxy is just part of what the mass actually presents there. They dubbed this missing mass as dark matter. So that's when it all started, and that's when they started learning about it. We come a long way from there, but still we don't know much about it.
Thank you, Archit. I think that was really important to talk about because dark matter actually accounts for 85% of the matter in the universe. So it's really interesting how far we've come, but we still have a long way to go. Now we've all wondered what if there is a parallel universe, and if there is everything the same as our world as we know it, or does time run backwards there, and can we conceptualize some of these parallel universes? To speak about this and the most interesting theories, we have Mahati.
So the first thing that you will have to know is what are parallel universes? A parallel universe is another universe that has a different sequence of events or a separate universe or world that coexists with our known universe but is very different from it. Eventually, matter has to replicate itself in similar ways and organize itself. So if the universe is infinitely large, infinite parallel universes are also home to it. For example, pretend the Earth is a deck of cards. If you shuffle the deck, there are several orders that can occur. Similarly, in a parallel universe, there are various orders of events and events that can occur. Now I'll be talking about the multiple theories of multiverses or parallel universes. Starting off with the bubble theory. The bubble theory comes from a nature of cosmic inflation, which views the universe having expanded in the first tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang. In this layout of the multiverse concept, some parts of space-time expanded faster than the others. This created bubbles of space-time. In each of these bubbles, there is a vacuum simmering with energy. The energy caused the bubbles to expand. So in each of these bubbles, there could be a different universe. Next is our membranes, or other dimensions. This theory gives us a possibility that our universe is a two-dimensional sheet embedded in a larger super-universe with 9 dimensions. Kinda how like each sheet of paper in a newspaper is its own 2 dimensions in our 3-dimensional world. And if there were 9 dimensions instead of 3, we would have a lot more space for the other universes like ours. But these would also be embedded in a bigger hole. These surfaces are called membranes. Finally, we have our many worlds theory for quantum physics. Surprisingly, physicists still don't fully understand the collapse of wave functions in quantum mechanics. But this theory is an attempt at an explanation. This suggests that every alternate timeline for the universe is real, and they all happen in an ever larger way. Kind of like a universal choose your own adventure. If this were to happen, we might not realize it because we would be stuck living in the infinitely possible lives we could have had. In some ways, the many worlds theory is similar to the bubble theory by proposing that anything that can happen does happen, and we're just living in the events that make it necessary for us to exist. Keep in mind that for all of these universes or theories, there is not any experimental evidence that can prove that it is true. I will now be talking about some unbelievable parallel universe stories. First is the man from Taured. In 1954, Japan's Haneda Airport was checking the passports of passengers, just as they usually would. One passport was a bit different, and it belonged to a well-dressed businessman who spoke fluent French and Japanese. The officials pulled him aside because he looked like he didn't belong there. The man was very annoyed and began becoming very distraught when they started questioning him. When they asked where he was from, he pulled out a passport which was from Taured, apparently a country between France and Spain. The officials wanted to believe it as it looked very real with official stamps from other countries, but they made him stay at a guarded hotel. Unfortunately, the morning after, he was gone, and that was the last we heard of the man from Taured. Could Taured exist in another parallel universe? The second story is Utsuro Bun. This means hollow ship and refers to the appearance of a strange ship made out of metal and wood with crystal windows that had arrived off the shores of Japan's Hitachi province. In the ship was a woman with pale skin, bright red hair with white hair extensions, and when she had run into locals, the startled woman was terrified. She didn't speak a language that anybody recognized, and she kept on clutching a strange box. When locals searched her ship, they only found 2 sheets, a small water supply, and some strange food that seemed to be a pastry made out of bread and meat. Unsure what else to do, the locals put the woman back on her ship and set her back out to sea. Now, this could be fiction, but it had an appearance in many stories that we couldn't help but think that it was from a parallel universe. This also might have sparked the first knowledge of UFOs. The final story is about Joffer Voren. In 1851, in Frankfurt, a very confused man was wandering about town. He seemed not to know where he was, and when German officials decided to ask him where he was from, he said in very broken German that he was from Laxaria. Nobody had ever heard of this country, so they asked what continent it was on. He replied Sacria, which confused the authorities even more. He identified as Joffer Voren and kept on speaking of this unexisting land. He claimed that he was in Germany to find a long-lost relative and that he was shipwrecked. He couldn't trace his travel journey on any map that was given to him, but insisted that the Laxarians knew all about the 5 compartments of Earth. He called compartments, which could have been continents, Sacria, Aslar, Oslar, Aflar, and Uplar. Soon after he was interrogated, the confused and scared man disappeared, never to be heard from again. All of these stories might prove that parallel universes do exist.
Thank you, Mahati. So one point I wanted to bring up here was one book I read in middle school, which actually sparked my interest in the universe. It was called 359, and it's a book about parallel universes and what happens when you tamper with them. And I didn't say that just as a book suggestion, even though I think everyone should read that book. But I not only me, but all of us find this concept really fascinating. And you did a really good job explaining and presenting such an abstract idea, especially with those very interesting stories. So thank you. Next, we have Anvita, who will be speaking to us about black holes and the wildest theories developed over centuries, which are actually still very rooted deeply in science.
Okay, thank you, Maida. Black holes. So, my first question is, what are black holes? Well, a black hole is a region in space where the pulling force of gravity is so strong that even light is not able to escape. That's cool, right? The strong gravity occurs because matter has been pressed into a tiny space. This compression can take place at the end of a star's life. Some black holes are a result of dying stars. My second question is, what are the sizes and what types of black holes are there? The smallest black holes are known as primordial black holes. Scientists believe this type of black hole is as small as a single atom, but with the mass of a large mountain. The most common type of medium-sized black hole is called stellar. The mass of a stellar black hole can be up to 20 times greater than the mass of the sun and can fit inside a ball with a diameter about 10 miles. Dozens of stellar mass black holes may exist within the Milky Way galaxy. The largest black holes are called supermassive. These black holes have masses greater than 1 million suns combined and would fit inside a ball with a diameter about the size of the solar system. Scientific evidence suggests that every large galaxy contains a supermassive black hole at its center. Supermassive black holes at the center of the Milky Way galaxy is called a Sagittarius. It has a mass equal to about 4 million suns and would fit inside a ball with a diameter about the size of the sun. My third question is, what are they made of? Primordial black holes are thought to have formed in the early universe, soon after the Big Bang. Stellar black holes form when the center of a very massive star collapses upon itself. This collapse also causes a supernova, or an exploding star, that blasts part of the star into space. Scientists think supermassive black holes formed at the same time as the galaxy they are in. The size of the supermassive black hole is related to the size and mass of the galaxy it is in.
Thank you, Anvita. For one, personally, I feel black holes are the scariest part about our universe. So yeah, you did a really good job explaining them. And now we'll be moving on to the question running through all of our minds. Are we alone in this massive, beautiful universe of ours? And to speak about that, we have Pranav.
Okay, so are we alone? Alone in all that space? Not likely. There are two sides to this. One is that if we do the numbers, it will tell you that we are not alone in the sense that there are probably trillions and trillions of habitable places in the universe, which means that there should be lots of opportunities for life to develop and exist. Basically, we feel that we're the only ones who build a civilization and that there could be another life form other than us. But everything outside our direct galactic neighborhood, the so-called local group, is pretty much out of our reach forever. The fact that we want to find alien life out there is causing people to think that we're not the only ones in the universe and that there's another civilization who can dominate the world after another planet forms in the habitable zone, like Earth did. So like I think it's like probably a billion years because Earth formed a billion years, right? So I think there's a possibility for another Earth to form in the habitable zone. So probably the aliens do not want to come to the Earth in their suspicious form, and that they do not want to reveal themselves to the civilization yet, or that they're too far. This brings us to the main point that the universe is expanding, and that even if we built like a spaceship, it would take more than a billion years to find a civilization. It is just the fact that as the universe is expanding and everything is cooling down, causing the planets to have some sort of life form. I personally feel that like we aren't alone because whatever like we do, we have to give it like 100%. So it will not like think that we are alone in the universe.
Thank you, Pranav. That was a really interesting way of putting it. And I haven't thought of it from that perspective before. So thank you. Finally, what happens the day Earth ceases to exist? Because we know the sun is a star and stars expand, and Earth will be absorbed by the sun when it enters the red giant phase. So, what are our other options to save the human race? To tell us what we can do, we have AJ.
So when it comes to sun expanding, we can really stop it. So stage one is the orange color you can see at the bottom is the current stage. And right now, as Pranav said in the before slide, it's in the Earth's in the habitable zone because the sun covers the specific radius, and that radius, when it projects out heat and radiation, it loses by every planet or by distance. And when it comes to Earth, it is decreased enough that it is suitable for life. So at stage 2, it becomes bigger, and by then it would have been eaten up Mercury. But that means as the radius of the sun grows, it pushes out the habitable zone. But by stage 2, is still there on in Earth's cover, so Earth will be still habitable by stage 2. But then when it comes to stage 3, Venus is engulfed and absorbed, and habitable zone is flipped back all the way to Jupiter. So Earth becomes barren land by that time. And when it comes to stage 4, Earth is eaten up. But Earth is dying right now because humanity is just a blink of time in Earth's whole life. So when Earth's resources are polluted, the whole world is actually dying. Humans are using up all the resources and they're polluting it. Like fish are going extinct here, the animals are going extinct. Every single specific being in the world is useful for Earth. None of them can stay without the other. So as we go hunting or killing off every single species on Earth, Earth will become a barren land before it even reaches stage 2. We can't stop Earth being engulfed by the sun. That happens, but it's all the way in like 6 to 9 billion years later, and humanity won't be alive by then. But we are actually killing it before even it reaches to stage 2. All we have to do is stop polluting and just use resources politely.
Thank you, AJ. So that was, you made some really, really good points about what will happen when Earth does, get swallowed by the sun and how we're not helping in any way. So now, again, AJ will be speaking about our other options, specifically Venus.
Venus has extreme conditions, temperatures reaching up to 400 degrees Celsius. The high carbon dioxide levels cause all that heat to be trapped inside the thick atmosphere, and it actually rains acid there. It is completely inhabitable by humans. Nobody or any living species to ever exist in such type of harsh conditions. But however, there's an organism that actually thrives in these conditions called acidophiles. So these high toxic atmospheres have clouds, and astronomers actually found a specific element or gas that only acidophiles waste contains. So they think these acidophiles might be living in the clouds of Venus, but we didn't discover that yet. But they will. We can with additional telescope observations and future space missions like rovers and satellites. When you look at the sky, Venus is the brightest object there, but you'd never imagine that there might be life like ever to exist over there because we all know the harsh conditions. The point is, Venus when the sun was smaller, the habitable zone was so close, was down, like it was in front of the Earth, and Venus might have been in the habitable zone long time ago, like billions of years ago. And in that area, there might have been a lot of life, like Earth's kind of life on Earth and on Venus. So these acidophiles have evolved from the ground because the acidophiles also live on Earth, and they live usually in water or on the ground. But these are actually there in the clouds, and they are used to harsh conditions because Earth doesn't have those harsh conditions, but they still exist because they're so acid in the water on the ground. But in Venus, they've evolved. So it would be really cool if Earth actually dies out in the period of humanity, then we can maybe flee to Venus because we can maybe start life there because it was in the habitable zone. And a long time ago, there might have been water there, and that water might still be there under the thick crust of Venus. So we usually look to Mars or other giant moons that contain water, but it would be really cool if life was actually existing on such a barren land as Venus.
Thank you, AJ. That was really interesting. Now we'll be moving on to a revolutionary observation that has changed physics, astronomy, and maybe will change all of our lives as we know them over the next couple of decades, maybe centuries. So for a bit of background, LIGO stands for the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, and it's basically an observatory that was built by Caltech and MIT. 100 years after Einstein's prediction, the scientists in the observatory observed ripples in the fabric of space-time, and those ripples are also known as gravitational waves. They were detected on September 14th, 2015, and they were produced by the merging of two black holes into a single massive one. And what's really interesting about this is that these two black holes were located 1.3 billion light years away from Earth, from the observatory, which takes us back to a time where Earth was populated by only single-cell organisms. So what Einstein's theory of general relativity says, which we've heard of, but many of us don't know what it is, and I didn't until I researched it specifically, explains that two black holes orbiting near each other will lose energy by emitting gravitational waves. They come closer over billions of years, and just at the second before they're about to merge, they collide at half the speed of light. And if you can see, it's getting faster. And when they collide, some of the combined mass is converted to energy, which is emitted as gravitational waves. So here is a quick video explaining the discovery and a bit more about its implications.
Gravitational waves were predicted by Einstein almost 100 years ago.
A gravitational wave is a ripple in the fabric of space and time. It's produced somewhere in the distant universe and travels across the universe.
When any massive object moves, it's changing the nature of space-time. That's what Einstein told us.
So you have a motion that stretches space in one direction and compresses space in the other direction.
Nobody really believed at the time of the prediction that you could ever detect them because the size of the effect is so small.
Okay, so as you saw from the video, and the scientists actually that work in the lab were the scientists in the video, you can tell the discovery is not only one of its kind, but also has revolutionary implications on science and, more importantly, humanity. So just to explain a little bit more about what this actually means, because it's pretty confusing until you understand it completely. If you imagine space-time as a piece of fabric throughout the universe, wrapping cosmic objects such as stars, black holes, and planets. For example, in this picture, you can see the so-called fabric of space-time is wrapping Earth. Big objects such as planets and black holes warp space-time around them, and this creates gravity, and in some cases, gravitational waves. And large objects exerting a large gravitational force bend the fabric of space-time by a lot. As you can see, Earth is making a big dent in this visualization. So if they bend the fabric enough to close back on themselves and the field is strong enough, then there can exist paths that distort space-time and intersect themselves at different times. Basically meaning time travel, or being able to travel along a path that connects points in the future to points in the past, might be possible. So I won't be getting too much into what time travel means for us because we know the ethical implications, the scientific implications, we know how complicated that can get. So this was definitely a very, very interesting observation, and I hope it was something new for everyone to hear. And that brings us to the end of our presentation for today, but now Q&A will begin as well as interactions between the panelists. So the first question we have for today is, where does space actually begin? And we can go in any order answering that, but we'll start with Hasini.
Okay, so space begins about 100 kilometers or 62 miles above Earth's surface, and astronauts routinely live and work in space, but they must live in special environments and wear spacesuits to work where there's no air to breathe and temperatures are extreme.
Yep. Anvita? Okay. Does anyone else would anyone else like to take up that question?
I can. So the US military and NASA define space differently. So according to them, space starts 12 miles below the Kármán line at 50 miles above Earth's surface. So pilots, mission specialists, and civilians who cross this boundary are officially deemed astronauts. So that's what I think about where does space begin.
Yeah, I was actually exactly going to say the same thing. The Kármán line, which Pranav said is 50 miles above, 50 to 62 miles above, but it's disputed, so there's no one right answer. But yeah, that's around where space begins. So the next question that we received was, do we have any proof that aliens have ever visited Earth? Also, what are the craziest theories that we've heard about life in space which actually might be true? Anyone can start taking this up.
I'll say.
So,
Go ahead. AJ, you want to go? And after AJ, Hasni.
So, there is like very little proof that there might have been aliens, because Area 51 and all that stuff that happened a few years ago. So, there have been many spots of UFOs that's in the internet and the media, but many of them are deemed fake. But you can say a few of them because there are people out there that do believe, and there might be few of them that actually might have been real, but there's no alien that actually spoke to anybody. And before the theories on alternate dimensions, that's the only proof of any other person, any other being, and that's actually on Earth ever present on Earth.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hasni, do you have something else to add?
Yeah, so I don't think there was any proof of any other life yet, but the ultimate goal of NASA's exoplanet program is to find unmistakable signs of current life on a planet beyond Earth. And how soon that can happen depends on two unknowns: the prevalence of life in the galaxy and how lucky they get as they take those first exploratory steps. And also, NASA's chief scientists predict that we will get signs of alien or other species life by 2025.
That's really soon. I'm actually kind of excited to see if that actually exists. Does anyone else have an answer for this one? So one thing
many people still, like, there's like a group of people in the US like that, like, are in the like globe, like, that believe that like the flat earth theory or something, like that earth is flat, and they still believe it. So like people are fighting and putting lawsuits against that theory.
Yeah, adding on to that, if we're jumping out of the aliens going to just crazy theories, also people believe NASA is a lie, and that all the images they show are kind of fake. So there are lots of theories out there. Since we actually haven't been in space ourselves, we don't know what to believe. But I think most of us believe NASA is a government organization. So one thing I have to add, especially like specifically to the alien question, is there's something called the Fermi paradox, which is basically seeks to answer the question of where aliens are. And there's an Italian physicist named Enrico Fermi, and he came up with this theory. He said any civilization that has just even like a small amount of rocket technology and has a really, really big ambition or a goal to colonize the universe, they could actually rapidly colonize the entire galaxy. Within 10 million years, every star system in our universe could be brought inside one empire. And 10 million years might seem like a really long time, but if you compare to the age of the galaxy, it's like 10,000 million years. It's really not that long. So if alien life is out there, colonization between planets and like wars between planets might really be possible in the future, which is something interesting to think about. Does anyone else have anything to add, or do you guys want to move on to the third question that we received? Okay, so our last question that we have is, you've heard so many myths and theories and crazy conspiracy stories as well about the universe while prepping for this webinar. So what are your personal beliefs about the universe, space, time, and life in this universe in general?
I have something to add. So this is the theory insists that the exo planet mission by NASA, they found many exoplanets that actually contain water in them. So water is a life-giving source, and the water, every single water bodies might have contained single cell organisms. So that's an alien itself. So there are billions and trillions of exoplanets found by NASA that actually contain water. So there might have been life in not every single one of them, but most of them, because life, like if there's water, then there might be life in them.
Yeah, and I think one really important point you just brought up, AJ, is when you said that the single-celled organisms that do exist already on other planets are considered aliens within themselves. A lot of us forget that when we think of aliens, we think of a green small man with those antenna ears, but aliens is just any sort of life, even if it's single-celled or even if it's a very complex organism like we are, just any form of life not on Earth could be considered alien and definitely exists as we know in Venus, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation. Anyone else? Um, so I don't have too much to add to this one, but if we're going into personal opinions, I would just say I like to think of the universe as a kind of a scientific, living, breathing thing. Because it's interesting to think that, as we've mentioned so many times in our previous webinars, that the universe conspires to help us achieve what we want to. So for me, I also look at universe from that angle, but also from a physics angle as well, with space time and kind of putting those three dimensions together. So yeah, that's what the concept of the universe means to me. And we've answered all the questions we've got. So unless anyone wants to add to any of the questions, or if anyone has another question to answer, then we're done for today. So thank you to everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Medha. That was pretty intense to some extent, but I love that way you guys come a new topics, and you whatever it is, if it is not something that everyone can relate to, but you do your bit to make it something that somebody else can think upon, or utilize, or have question about. So yes, very nicely done. Thank you, all of you who have joined in and taken out time today, especially to do this webinar. And it is said that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So you never know which cave you have entered. And the more you try to find answers, you might find a new planet, a new universe that you all are looking for. So thank you so much. And definitely wanted to let everybody know that we do these webinars every week, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. And for next week, we have on Tuesday, Mastering Impromptu Conversations Like a Pro. That's our topic for Tuesday. And on Wednesday, November 19th, we have Personal Branding on LinkedIn, how to establish yourself as a sorry, that's on Thursday. Wednesday, we have Intelligent Data Convergence, understanding the technologies behind data convergence and its importance in this digital era, which will be on Wednesday, November 18th. And on Thursday, November 19th, we'll be having personal branding on LinkedIn, how to establish yourself as a credited brand. And don't forget that we will have our youth, but the younger group that will be talking on next Friday, from 9 to 10 p.m. EST. And the topic they have chosen this time is on how to be thankful, how and why and what, definitely leading to Thanksgiving. So that's the topic they are diligently working on. So with all that said, if do we have any questions from on Facebook or YouTube, Medha? Okay, if not, then thank you everyone for joining in today. And we definitely hope that you will give your feedback, your questions, or if you want your kid to be participating in these webinars, then you'll definitely email us at webinar@letustalkit.com for any queries for professional webinars, which happens Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and for the youth webinar, please email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. So, and we also do yoga sessions every Wednesday and Sunday, Wednesday 9 to 10 p.m. EST and Sunday 9 to 10 a.m. EST. So with all that, we feel that Let Us Talk It is a part of the community and wants to make the community its part as well. So with that, we end this session. Have a exciting and lovely Diwali and lovely rest of the evening for all the people who have joined from all over the world. Thank you. Bye-bye.